think that's a great question. I think we should ask them. But if I were to just think about the things that they've said and the questions that they've asked as to why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I do what I do, I think it's always been anything that I do, they question why. But if you were to ask them, they'd say I'm crazy. They say it all the time. But one thing, they might not understand why, and they think I'm crazy, but they are huge supporters of mine, and they're definitely big fans. They're my biggest fans. I so appreciate all their support. I'm very thankful for that. But if you were to ask them, they definitely would say that I'm crazy.
Hello, everyone. I am here today with a special guest, Brad Kearns. How you doing, Brad?
Oh, Kate, I'm excited to talk to you. I thought I was going to be doing all the talking while you were pedaling, but we get to have a real conversation.
We
I know we've
do.
rocked it before, so I think the listeners are in for a treat, and we're already warmed up off the recording button, so we're
I
ready to
know.
slam it.
I should know to hit the record button when we first start because we just love, both of us love to talk. But today I'm really excited because it's been a little while since I've spoken to you. I mean, we do talk a lot offline, but actually physically talk to you because since I saw you last and we've had an interview last, you had a new book come out with Mark Sisson, and it's the 2 meals a day. Look at that. I got my copy right here. I love this thing. It's such a practical book. And I think that it's amazing to have you here to talk to us about it, like the major key points and stuff. So we'll go through that. But first and foremost, what is exciting with you right now? You got to share some exciting news with us.
Oh my gosh, I am obsessed with sprinting and high jumping these days.
There you are.
And I was injured for 6 months, and I was, prevented from doing my favorite workouts. And it was a really great recalibration of my mindset. And, we talk about gratitude. We hear people talk about it on podcasts, but I think we have a real easy time just taking things for granted, including athletic training and going out there and, hey, you had a bad workout today, and so you're kind of in a down mood, and all these silly things where if you get something taken away for you for 6 months, you have a greater appreciation for just the little things. So now, like when I'm doing my warm-up drills, I'm so excited to do these fun drills and try to perfect them. And people can see me on YouTube. I filmed
Yes.
them, and I just get a lot of enthusiasm for going out there and moving our body and challenging ourselves. And who am I kidding, Kate? I'm 56 years old, so I'm in the old guys division. I'm out there having fun by myself. And
Well, you look
my prior
amazing.
life, when I was when I was competing on the pro circuit, and things seemed to be very serious and important, and there was a lot of focus on it, and the races are on television and all this kind of stuff that I was caught up in a long time ago. It's no different than me trying to jump over a bar in an empty high school track where I climbed over the fence to sneak in because you're not allowed yet.
Right.
But the significance of pursuing an athletic goal right now is no different than when I was completely wrapped up in this high profile life on the professional triathlon circuit. And so I think that's kind of what's exciting and what's turning into be my main theme that I like to promote is this importance, this critical importance of pursuing peak performance with passion throughout your life, whatever it is and whatever you can find that gets you excited and turns you on. It doesn't have to be something where you're, going to your extreme and riding your bike across the country, but it can be, trying to get out of a rut, let's say, and start your day with an exercise routine rather than reaching for your phone. These little things that make a huge difference. And then you look down the road 6 months later, 12 months later, and it's like, wow, I really appreciate these changes that I've made in my life. And now I consider myself a healthy, active person, or whatever you're coming from and whatever you want to go to. There's always a goal to shoot for. So I'm pumped about my high jumping. I can't wait till the meets open up and all this fun stuff in 2021 here.
I can't wait either. I love watching your Instagram because you can actually see you with the huge bands on and jumping like with one leg, and your legs are jacked. I mean, you're jacked anyway. It's just really fun to see how, coming from the triathlete world that you were in and how you're still active now, even at 56, and you're still in good shape. I mean, you're definitely my hero, and I look up to you, and I hope I look like you when I'm 56 years old. So let's talk a little bit about that first. I've never asked you this question, so I'm seriously, questioning this and wanting to know. So what got you into being an athlete? What was that drive?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think my childhood in Los Angeles was framed around that, probably with the family influence and then peers. And boy, listeners who are younger than I want to explain that there was a large chunk of my life where there was no technology. There's no mobile technology. There was no screen entertainment to the extent that we have today. And so our lives were framed by outdoor active play. And so I got involved in organized sports really early, and I was really passionate about it. And of course, I was in a very competitive environment, being in Los Angeles and going to one of the large city high schools. So, I dreamed of being a professional football player, maybe a quarterback, maybe a wide receiver. And then in basketball, I was going to be a guard for the Los Angeles Lakers and all these things. And then when you turn to teenage years and you realize the level of incredible competition that you're up against, and in my case, in the big city, it was guys that were headed to the NBA and the NFL. So I very quickly recalibrated and became a long distance runner, which is basically the dumping ground for the guys who weren't big enough, tough enough, strong enough to go and play tackle football, whatever, hit baseballs out of the park. So that was really great because I joined this community of lifelong friends, still buddies today with my running teammates from high school. And I started out as a goofball. Imagine that, Kate. I was the guy that hid in the bathroom. We'd run by this gas station bathroom and I'd duck in there, and then the team would leave for their long distance training session, cross country team, and I'd sneak back home, eat some waffles, and go jump on our trampoline. And that was kind of my training for early cross country. But I got around some pretty serious guys, Steve Cobrin, Todd Pearson, Stephen Deitch. They get a shout out right now. Awesome. Deitch was an all-American level distance runner, and he pushed us so hard in high school, and we all followed the lead of the guys who were, getting more and more serious. And together, we rose to a high level. So I got this taste of, elite competition. We went to the National Junior Olympics finals, and, I felt like, wow, if I put in some hard work and it pays off and I'm serious and devoted and disciplined, this is going to be a great thing. And then just to tell the story quickly, and I know we got other things to talk about, but I think it's important that, that's not all it takes to be a successful champion athlete. And I learned in college, when I pushed my body too hard and listened to coaching and was involved in a team structure that was extremely dysfunctional and not helpful for the individual, I crashed and burned like crazy. And I got sick or injured 5 seasons in a row. And this was my passion, my life. And as a young person, you're attaching your self-esteem and you're defining yourself by your identity as a runner. Yeah. And so it was a really devastating experience to realize, you know what, this college running thing ain't going to work out for me because I can't even stand up and make it through these torturous workouts. Yeah. And that's when I kind of had my first recalibration to realize that that competitive athletics is more than just working hard and toughening it up and getting that sweat going and high-fiving the person next to you because you did yet another badass workout. That will very quickly and lead to a dead end. Then you have to wake up and go, geez, how can I do this in a sensible, intelligent, thoughtful, intuitive manner? What other aspects of my lifestyle might be attached to my athletic performance, such as my diet? You can imagine a college kid. I like to chow on those brownies all day long when I was training, 50, 60, 70 miles a week. And so I had to do an awakening. And that's kind of became my life's path, because I've been in health and fitness and writing and podcasting and doing events and coaching for decades since my beginning as an athlete.
Yeah. And I love that because, you're the reason why I found Dr. Phil Maffetone. And whereabouts in your career did that Maffetone method come into play for you?
Oh my gosh. Let's go to the halfway point. And here I am. And so, what worked out for me was the college running scene was a disaster. But then I found this wonderful sport of triathlon where, the impact trauma of running wasn't so extreme. You could mix and match. And all of a sudden I was, captivated by this new sport. And I only lasted 11 weeks in the workforce. I was a staff auditor for the world's largest accounting firm. It was a very prestigious job out of college. I was making good money and wearing my suit and tie, but that wasn't my destiny. So I quit and launched full effort into trying to become a professional triathlete. And so, that worked out well. I went for 9 years on the circuit. I reached some good heights. I was national champion, number 3 in the world at my very best. And I also had a lot of struggles and setbacks. And about halfway through, I realized my whole life was dedicated to this. I was a pretty fit, talented guy. I was working hard, right? I was getting some good results. I was, getting an 8th here and a 10th there and a 12th and then a 3rd and then a 4th. But the guys in front of me were still in front of me. And it was so frustrating to go out to the race and, get dropped on the bike by Mike Pigg, or see Mark Allen, who had mastered all 3 events and he was in a different level. And I remember being distraught at one point, and I cornered Mark Allen at a race, and I said, Mark, I'm giving my heart and soul to the sport. I can't train any harder. I can't sleep anymore. I'm sleeping half my life, 12 hours every single day, 10 hours a night, 2-hour afternoon nap. I go, what's going on? How do you do this? How come you're flying ahead of the pack? And he said, look, you got to slow down. You got to take care of your body. Maffetone's principles are to monitor your heart rate and stay in this thing called the aerobic zone. So you have to go get yourself a heart rate monitor. And I was like, what's that? And if you go and Google the old pictures of the first Polar wireless chest strap, it literally was a rectangle. And so people called it a toaster. I don't want to exaggerate, but it was like a small iPhone that you put on your wrist. And so this was the awakening, is that by slowing down and taking time to build that aerobic base, you can actually go faster even at the extreme high intensity paces that we're racing at, because we're doing Olympic distance, where on the bike ride, you're kind of going flat out time trial for an hour, going 26, 27 miles an hour, then you're getting off the bike. And if you want to win some money, you're going to be running 5-minute miles and change for 10K. And so it's really, unlike the Ironman, which is a lot of pacing and aerobic conditioning, the Olympic distance circuit is filled with guys who are just flying from the gun. And so it's like, how can I imagine that, swimming these casual laps in the pool and building my stroke mechanics, or pedaling the bicycle at a really comfortable pace up hills, is going to matter when I'm down in my tuck time trying and trying to stay with some guy who's going 27 miles per hour. But of course, that's the awakening that all endurance athletes, deserve to experience, is that by becoming stronger, then you can open up the throttle when it's time to, step on the gas pedal. But you do that few and far between. And you don't even have to do it in workouts, really. That was Maffetone's great insight, is like, you train comfortably, and then when the race comes, then you bust your butt at the race. And it's it was something that worked out really well for me, because I made a breakthrough from like maybe I remember I was ranked number 8 a couple of years in a row. And I thought, well, that's pretty good, but like the difference between 8 and 1 or 2 or 3 in a small sport like triathlon could be a 10-fold increase in your income. So that's no funny business when you're just struggling and trying to, scrape up a plane ticket for the next race. And then if you happen to make a jump, then they're throwing plane tickets into your mailbox and you're deciding which one you should choose from. And so, yeah, sports is rough. It's graphic, it's extreme, and you learn these lessons of success and failure in a more dramatic manner than anywhere else I can imagine. And for me, it was to like take a look at the fringes and those little frailties that I might have had. Such as, hey, today's an easy day. I'm going to go down to the beach bicycle path and cruise and look at the sunshine. And then, your ego gets involved because some dork in tennis shoes passes you, and you're like, well, I can't let that guy pass me on my multi-$1,000 sleek racing machine and my tight clothing. I'm going to have to pass him and show him who's boss. But if that's the type of athlete you are, and I think this all resonates with us where, do you have a higher purpose? Are you honoring that higher purpose every single day, every time you work out? Or are you just a person that needs to honor your ego demands and jump into this unregulated competitive intensity? And so, boy, when you can look yourself in the mirror and go, where are my weak spots? What do I need to shore up? How do I make that, small percentage breakthrough in my performance that's going to mean the difference between a no name and someone who can, have this wonderful breakthrough?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about right now too does fit in with the 2 meals a day, because we talk about becoming that fat burning beast, right? And this is how you do that. We talk about, recovery. This is, how all this is kind of tying in together. So we can't help but talk about this stuff, without touching on the book. So I think this is great. So let's talk a little bit about that too, because, this 2 meals a day book that we are, trying to talk about today, it's all about, losing fat, like what most people want, reversing your aging, all of that stuff. But if we, like how you said, and how we all know, is the no pain, no gain, going all out all the time, we're not going to reach this outcome when we're, our age, when we're older, when we get older than that. Like even Mark Allen, when I look at him, he is in such great shape to be in his 60s. He told us how old he was, and I can't even remember. I know he's in his 60s, but to look like that is my ultimate goal, but still also enjoy working out and being competitive and doing those kinds of things. So to do it wisely is the way to do it. And and as you mentioned, nutrition is key too, right? So all of this stuff we're going to really cover today. I appreciate that. So what does a fat burning lifestyle look like? We've already touched on the Maffetone method, going slower, not going all out, like you said, only saving those and reserving that for the races. You talked a lot about sleeping. You mentioned that a little bit too. You were getting 12 hours a day. But that is part of the equation. It's not all of the equation, right? Because most people think when they have that recovery, it's all about sleep. It's not just about sleep. So it's the working out, it's the sleep, right? But also what else goes underneath all of this fat burning lifestyle?
Well, I really like how you present that as a lifestyle, because if you try to isolate into the super cool new diet, you're going to have some struggles and difficulties adhering to, let's say, a ketogenic diet or any kind of low carb diet or any kind of cleanup dietary transition if you are immersed into what I guess we could call a high stress sugar burning lifestyle. Right. So if you can imagine, fat burning goes hand in hand with kind of a stress balanced existence. Honoring the example of our ancestors here in the ancestral health scene. We talk about this all the time where, the hunter-gatherer lifestyle is brief spurts of life or death, extreme physical effort. And that's the fight or flight response, which is so beautifully fine-tuned and a great thing to tap into when we go for a 3-minute morning cold exposure, or we go for a 20-minute high-intensity training session, a time trial race, or whatever you're doing tonight. That's great. We want fight or flight to tap into that when it's our turn to make a presentation in the conference room. We want to be focused and aroused and have that respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, all the things that tune us up for peak performance. But what happens today is we just string this fight or flight response out into a chronically stressful modern life. And that is directly associated with increased craving for quick energy carbohydrates. So we're fueling, we're putting junk food into kind of a high stress existence, and those definitely go hand in hand. And I think we can all reference times when, you get dysregulated from your best intentions, and you're sitting there at night, you're burnt out, you're fried, maybe you're emotionally disturbed, and that's when you're going to reach for the instant gratification. Sorry to rag on your area of the country there, but you know, Ben and
Okay.
Jerry's is
So
there waiting
true.
for you. The
Yep.
wonderful guys from Vermont who are so clean and hippie and cool, and then you look on their labels and they have refined industrial seed oils in the
Wow.
hippie, slippy, cool product. It's a disgrace, and they probably sold out a long time ago, and then some big company put that junk in there. But that's an aside, Kate, which is I'm expert at. But you asking your question of that fat burning lifestyle, yeah, there's a lot of different checkpoints here, and you could even argue that your stress management and your sleep and your rest and recovery might be the starting point before you even wander into the kitchen and start thinking about cleaning up your diet. But of course, you can do these things all hand in hand. And I think we're happy with this book and this title and the reception it's had so far, because we're trying to take a few steps back from this extreme nitpicking, controversy, you know, isolating on these tiny little nuances, rather than going, look, if you're eating junk food, there's no other conversation we need to have. And you can even, you know, pause this recording and come back to it a week later when you go through your cupboard and eliminate what we call the big three toxic modern foods. And these are refined sugars, grains, and industrial seed oils. They call them vegetable oils. Maybe you've heard that term. So these are the bottled cooking oils like canola, corn, sunflower, safflower. You'll find those immersed into all manner of processed foods, including Ben and Jerry's ice cream and a bunch of other crap. So if you can get the seed oils out of your diet, get the sugar and the sweetened beverages, and then the massive overconsumption of refined grains. This would be wheat, corn, rice, pasta, cereal, things like that. That's when you have a fighting chance at, let's say, you know, transitioning away from someone who's dependent on regular feedings of dietary carbohydrate as their main source of energy, to someone who can tap into the wonderful human magnificent ability to burn stored body fat as our primary source of energy. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy a slice of homemade cheesecake when you go visit grandma, and that's part of enjoying life, and we're very big on that subject too. So this is not some, you know, regiment boot camp that you're supposed to do forever, but it's kind of making this centerpiece fat burning, and then becoming metabolically flexible, which is the term that's bantered about now, that it, you know, is a highly lauded system where you're good at burning all manner of different fuels, especially stored body fat.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this book too, is, you know, you guys cover a lot of different ways of eating. Like you said, you're not being dogmatic of just one certain way. You guys kind of took a step back in that. And I like that. And to me, it's just like you said, those three, I call them sins. Those are the three biggest issues that I see in a lot of people that I work with in the nutrition field, is that those are if you have all three, that's the perfect storm for having diseases and having any kind of inflammatory issues. But those are like the biggest things though that athletes are eating. If you think about it, you know, they're on the road, they're stopping at gas stations to grab food if they're an endurance person, right? And so they're grabbing those Cliff Bars. Those Cliff Bars are touted as healthy, and because they're organic, they use some organic stuff. But if you look in there, there's seed oils, there's a lot of sugar in there, and there's also grains in there. So you got all three in one package. So you're definitely, people think that they're doing the right thing by eating something that's organic. And just because it's organic doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. It's a healthier option as far as the chemicals go, right? But it still has those three major factors in there. So I get concerned when I work with athletes, especially because they're the ones that are supposed to be the healthiest, but they're the ones that look the worst on paper when it comes to what they eat. Like, you know, they think they have to have a big bowl of pasta before they go out, you know, the night before a big race, before a triathlon. That's what they eat, is a big bowl of pasta, or they have, you know, Pop-Tarts as part of their fuel as they're going, you know. So those are the things that I worry about when I work with athletes too. So that's why I think this is a great place for people to start. You guys have a lot of practical little step-by-step stuff in here, because One thing you guys also talk about is the mindset of things, right? So, we've covered sleep a little bit. We've covered, the rest and recovery, the downtime, but also we talked a little bit about the sprinting. Like you said, that's very important to do those little micro workouts, as you call them. I call them hundreds. I see you still doing those. I love that. But having those little tiny routines, that's part of being in the recovery zone too, and part of being that fat burner, I should say, not the recovery zone, but the fat burning zone. So I also think that, taking a step back and looking at the mindset of things, like how you guys also approach with this book, is huge. Because I think if you just do all this stuff and you don't take care of the mindset, we're emotional eaters, plain and simple. Look at everything that we do, birth. There's always, food revolved around birth. We're always bringing, there's food around funeral, there's food around, birthdays, there's food around holidays, there's food. I mean, everything that we do for celebration, or if it's as we get together, it's all about food. So I think this is great that you guys are also approaching that mindset and coming from a different mindset too.
Yeah, the mindset and then the environment.
Yeah,
I think you're pointing out those examples, and I'm becoming highly aware of that, where, if you're in the store, we got to go to the shopping, we got to go get our good foods. But if we're going there, several days a week, and new things are popping up and they're coming into our home environment, our colleague at Primal, Dr. Lindsay Taylor, she's a psychologist, and she says there's these concepts where, if something's out in the open, like a bowl of cookies are on the table, of course you're going to be much more likely to indulge. And if there's a kettlebell in visible view in your home office, now that you're quarantined at home, listeners, and that kettlebell is sitting there, it's calling your name. And it's a huge difference from a kettlebell that's in a storage cupboard, or the stretch bands or the stretch cords. And so, I have some videos too. I've created this environment where there's a pull-up bar hanging there with the stretch cords hanging off, my X3 bars right en route from the bedroom to the kitchen. And I have all these opportunities for little bursts of fitness throughout the day. And then in terms of, your food choices, there's been some great work lately on the influence of these hyperpalatable processed foods on our brains, our consumption habits, and our lifelong patterns. And so basically people are hijacking. Dr. Robert Lustig's book, The Hacking of the American Mind, gets into this in detail. Rob Wolf's book, Wired to Eat, Stefan Gayenet's book, The Hungry Brain, talking about how when we hit these pleasure receptors in the brain, these dopamine receptors, boy, it's, nothing is going to discipline. You're not going to discipline your way out of these bad habits, because it's just too rewarding, and we're wired for pleasure and satisfaction. And so it really is a matter of structuring your environment properly and not bringing these foods into your awareness, into your physical space. And then secondly, like you say, with the mindset, if you can imagine, like the person on the airplane, and they dangle the bag of peanuts, and the person says, "No, thanks, I'm allergic to peanuts." So they didn't go, should I have some today? Well, it's a long flight. There's no decision making. There's no willpower necessary. There's nothing but no thank you, because they've had this severe allergic reaction where they might have to land the plane in Des Moines and rush the person to the hospital. So it's not even a choice. It's not even in their radar. And if we can kind of take that example to the goals that we have on a piece of paper written in our drawer, where we say, I want to cut out the big 3 toxic modern foods, because I just heard a great show from Kate, and she says, these are foods you want to get rid of, and the goal's been written there and it's not happening for you. Well, then we need to, I'm sort of advocating a stronger approach over time, where it's like, just tell yourself that you're not allowed to eat those, and don't bring them into your house until further notice. And then, we can unwind later when we go to grandma's and have that cheesecake. But I think a lot of people are stuck in this realm of, hey, everything in moderation, life's short, might as well enjoy a little. I'll have a little bit of that, or I'm trying to cut back, and all these messages and things that are happening where we're leaking a little bit here and there. And as we know from research about sugar and about wheat, the best-selling book Wheat Belly, Dr. William Davis,
Yeah.
and Dr. Lustig's work with sugar, Gary Taub's work as well, these foods are addictive. They have addictive properties to the brain in the same category as the opioid drugs. And so if
Right.
you have a little bit of sugar here and there, you're going to have a really hard time cleaning up your diet because it's going to beget the desire for more of those foods.
Exactly.
And so if you can take, let's say, a 21-day food restriction period, and you've done so well with your clients with carnivore, it just happens to be a great way to get rid of all the plant toxins that could be causing problems. But if we do any sort of food restriction period for 21 days to say, I'm going on a cleanse or whatever you want to call it, maybe it's not going to be the rest of your life, but if you'll be able to break free and gain a little bit of the sensation of what it's like to be a fat burner, where you're not living and dying by your next meal, your next snack, your next thing that's in your drawer, your processed energy bar. And boy, that can be something that builds momentum so quickly that pretty soon, as you might ask if you were, interrogated or were interrogated, I don't miss these foods that used to be the centerpiece of my life. I don't even have any desire for them whatsoever. And I used to be the biggest sugar hound of all, and the frozen yogurt guy with the 4 toppings on top. But I haven't had that for years and decades.
Right.
And so it's out of my life. And now I'll indulge with high quality, high cacao percentage dark chocolate. And I love it. And I'm enjoying my life just as much as the guy who inhaled those frozen yogurt bowls. But we can make those changes. We don't have to sacrifice and suffer. And I think that's getting back to
That's
trying
huge.
to stick with this theme and talking about the book. That was kind of the point here, is to say, look, we've had enough pounded over the head of here's how you should eat to look like Mr. or Mrs. Six-Pack on Instagram. And now let's talk a little bit more reality and get to something that's sustainable and doable for anybody, even someone who's not an extreme fitness enthusiast.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this doesn't have to be just for those athletes, right? I think this is very practical for anybody at any stage where they are. Regardless if, you've been paleo for a while, you can always step it up a little bit more. There's always I always say there's always a clean way to eat paleo. There's always a clean way to eat keto. There's always a clean way to eat all of these ways. But there's also I call it a dirty way. So, like the keto snacks, the paleo snacks, and all those things. And those aren't necessarily healthy, even though they're labeled paleo and keto. So those are the things that, that's why I tend to like the carnivore aspect of things, because it takes everything out and they have no cravings for other stuff. But I wouldn't go to that extreme for most people. It is an option. But one of the things that I like to talk about too is that nutrient density, right? As we've talked about in the past. I mean, we're not eating just to eat and to get the calories in, because we all know it's not just calories, right? That's just something.
Unless you're riding your bike across America.
That's the only time that I feel that calories really do matter at that point, because you're burning 10,000 calories. But for the typical, person that is, even if you're just going out and running, that, to me, it's all about nutrient density, giving your body what it needs versus just eating whatever. So basically it's quality over quantity.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's kind of the secret, because what we're dealing with here is, managing our appetite and consuming the appropriate amount of calories every day to sustain health and ideal body composition and all those things. There's a new book by Dr. Herman Ponzer called Burn, and this is his life's work. He's an evolutionary anthropologist, and his research validates that the human burns around the same number of calories every day, regardless of whether you work out or not. So that's kind of a mind blower. I had a really hard time getting my head around that. I had him back for a second show on my B-Rad podcast, and the second one was just me interrogating him, like, what about Kate Kretzinger when she's riding her bike 200 miles a day? And as you know, when you devote massive energy expenditure to exercise, you're going to tone down other aspects of your basic physiology and your metabolic function, and you're going to make all kinds of other compensations. And when you're off that bike, you're going to be burning much fewer calories than you would in an ordinary day when you're doing some gardening and running around doing errands. You're going to be flat on your back resting. And so when we make these compensations and we realize that we can't go and out exercise a bad diet, and in fact our workout energy expenditure matters very, very little to our body composition, then we kind of narrow in on what the trick is here. And the trick to dropping excess body fat or maintaining a healthy body composition level is to have a diet that's very satisfying, very nutrient dense. You're not wanting for more. You're not dreaming of food like a quote unquote dieter is for their 4-week binge, which is going to unwind and they're going to, add back all the weight that they lost and then some.
Right.
But if you have a diet that you report is thumbs up, very satisfying, delicious foods, you have all you want all the time, and it's not full of these calorically dense foods that have minimal nutrition, then you're going to be a big winner. And that's why this popularity of carnivore continues to grow. Not that people need to be that extreme if they're not interested, but look, if that's the centerpiece of your diet, you're going to have a lot of success, a lot of nutritional value, a lot of health benefits, and then go and have your sweet potato if you want, or your dark chocolate. But when people are advocating like a plant-based diet where you're talking about needing to get a massive amount of calories just to meet your nutritional micronutrient requirements, that's going to be more difficult.
Absolutely. And I love that too, like how you were mentioning, even on keto, I felt that I was getting enough nutrient density, because that was always a focus when I was doing the keto too, making sure I had that nutrient density food options as well. Well, regardless, I wasn't eating meat at the time, but everything else, like I really paid attention to the fat. I never thought about my next meal, but I do remember some of the times before that when I was vegetarian and vegan, I was always looking like, when's my next meal? When can I eat again? Because I was trying to intermittent fast, and so yeah, I think that's a great point that you bring that up, that it does help. If you find something that works for you, you're not thinking about your next meal. When are you going to eat again? You feel satiated, and that's the big point. And one of the things I want to mention too is the recipes in the back of this book are amazing. They look wonderful. So there's a couple of people that I gave the book to that they're excited about too, to try. So let's start there. Let me ask you one question about that too. So where would you recommend people start with this? Because you have so much information in here, and if it were me, I'm an all or nothing person. I jump in feet first. So where would your approach be for someone that is, looking to dabble a little bit in what we're talking about, whether it is paleo, whether it is, keto or something along those lines? Where would you tell them to start?
Well, I like how you mentioned your personality type in there, and you're a free first jump in person. And I think we have to recognize, what works for us and what doesn't, and what's your personality type and what's your inclinations. And I had Gretchen Rubin on my show in her great book, The 4 Tendencies, and I identified as the rebel. Imagine that. So I do things that I decide work for me my way. And so maybe I have a stack of books on my shelf, and I've extracted insights from all 12 of them, and I put it into the Brad Kearns plan, and here's how it's going to go. And that's what works for me. And other people who are the obligers of the world, right? They're going to take the book, and there's a 3-week action plan with day 1. You're going to have oatmeal in the morning, and day 2, you're going to have cottage cheese. And that might work for a certain person that needs everything to be spelled out. And so I've learned over time, don't pound people over the head with the wrong soft floaty thing. They're going to have to come to it when they're ready in their own time. And so I also try to no longer waste breath convincing and sharing my enthusiasm with people who are shut down, who have fixed and rigid beliefs, and are telling me that maybe my life's work doesn't amount to anything because they just saw Game Changers, and the best athletes are eating plant-based foods. And that's someone I don't want to get into a debate with if that's where it's going to start. But when people are open and inquisitive, like you just asked me a question, I'm going to answer it. And I think the starting point is knowing what's working for you and what appeals to you. And Mark Manson, the author of Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, he says, look, we need to get buy-in from our emotional brain to do any form of action. And it's our rational brain that we think rules the show. The one that writes down the goals on the piece of paper and is very thoughtful and sensible, and it knows that we're going to invest 10% of our money in a conservative fund, and we're supposed to do this, and we're supposed to do that. And then the emotional brain says, whoa, cruise to New Zealand, I'm in there, or whatever. And so when we get buy-in from our emotional brain, to honor these rational brain goals and plans that we've set, that's when we have a chance to succeed. And what does the emotional brain need to get buy-in? We need some instant gratification. We need some excitement. We need something that's going to be interesting and fun and stimulating right away, that doesn't seem too intimidating or too much filled with struggling and suffering and sacrifice. And so that's the first step, is to say, that sounds interesting. I think I can tackle that. Oh, I don't have to ride my bicycle 100 miles a day. I can ride 10 miles in 30 minutes, 3 times a week as my starting point. I think I can buy into that. And so when we have that proper mindset at the start, and an appreciation for the process and enjoyment of the process, rather than, yeah, I'm doing this thing, it's going to take a month, it's going to suck, then you're destined to failure for sure. And so where should we start? Ditch the big 3 would be the best thing. And then maybe with adding a little side note in there, is maybe put in there to take better care of yourself, especially with rest, recovery, restoration, and sleep. And I think a lot of us don't get enough overall rest, restoration, recovery, sleep. I'm going to use all those words rather than just sleep. So it's like go, 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 collapse into bed, alarm rings, and go again. That's a little different than saying, I'm going to discipline my use of mobile technology so that I have downtime for my brain throughout this busy day. I'm going to focus on my peak cognitive tasks with great devotion. I'm not going to get distracted or pulled away from instant gratification of text messaging. And so you have a little bit more a nurturing type of lifestyle, where you honor your energy swings and your need for downtime, not to constantly be overstimulated with technology, as I feel is one of the big problems of today. And this is a guy talking who had half his life without this stuff, so I can reference back, and boy, we're missing some things, and there's also a lot of cool things. So I'm not going to be a negative here, but we got to use that technology to our advantage rather than let it own us and control us.
And it's so true. Even now, I mean, you don't even have your blue blockers on. I don't either. But with this COVID stuff going on, we are so subjected to all this stuff now. Working from home, we're always in front of our computers. I mean, as coaches, that's what we do now. That's how we connect, right? So, it's hard not to be consumed by it right now. And so making that extra effort to put it down, walk away from it, is part of my new ritual now, because even when I'm on the bike pedaling, I have a computer in front of me because it's a program that is on the computer, right? So I'm constantly in front of that. So I have to make those mindful choices and put them into my routine daily. I actually set an alarm on my phone to remind me to, now that we have nice weather, step outside. Before it was just step away, go do a couple, sit-ups, air squats, whatever it is, just step away from everything and just go do some movement. It was huge. So I think, having those kind of tendencies and rituals to get away from the electronics is a big, huge, because those are very stressful, and we don't realize how stressful they are, because it messes up our natural circadian rhythm, right? I mean, that could be a whole other discussion for us to talk about. But yeah, I definitely think that that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. We need to put those down because we are attached to them all the time. And I have to say, I have been, since all of this planning has been put into place for my big challenge, I've been in front of my phone, my computer, I mean, you name it, I'm in front of it all the time. So, make an alarm, take time to just go 5 minutes at a time. That's all you need to do. Step away. We've got 5 minutes to do that. So that also brings up, because this book kind of encompasses a lot of that stuff, but we can't talk about all this stuff and not mention your MoFo mission. I love this MoFo mission because I think even as a coach, I see it in 20-year-olds, I see it in 30-year-old young males. Their testosterone are low. That's not necessarily this whole MoFo mission, but it's part of it, because everything that is dragging us down, everything that is, affecting us in every way, everything that we've mentioned, the rest, the recovery, all that stuff that slips by the wayside in nutrition, affects our hormones. And so we really, even as women, I see it too. And yes, women have testosterone. So, we have to really be cognizant of this stuff. And I think the mission that you have is just amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that and where they can find a link for you. So we make sure we post that so that we can make sure that people get this information so they can start healing their body.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Bradkearns.com. You'll
Awesome.
find it all. There's a link called MoFo, and you'll be welcome to the wonderful world of, obviously, the acronym is for an organ supplement that I promote
Yes.
with my good friends at Ancestral Supplements. It's called Male Optimization Formula with Organs. And we call it MoFo because you
Love
want to
that.
be a real MoFo and optimize your testosterone for the rest of your life. And as you mentioned, we have a huge problem here. The research is showing, research from around the globe, not just US, there's an average decline of around 1% per year
Wow.
since the 1980s, a
Wow.
steady decline downward in the average male testosterone level. I'm not talking about getting old and declining your
Right.
testosterone because that's going to happen. You can stave that off. I'm talking about the average 33-year-old or 43-year-old or 53-year-old has 20%, 25% less testosterone than their father or their grandfather did at the same age. And that's pretty mind-blowing.
That is
A lot of
mind-blowing.
people are pointing to the estrogenic compounds in the environment, and that is a big deal. Now we drink out of plastic bottles and microwave our plastic containers and crazy stuff like that. So we want to get rid of those environmental estrogenic compounds by using good personal care products, natural things. Oh, we can give a plug for New England now with the Toms, right? They make the toothpaste
Yes,
and the
they do.
deodorants and clean stuff. I think those
Yeah.
guys are going to throw down on Ben and Jerry's for supremacy. But that's just a small portion of the big picture reason why testosterone is declining. Sperm count is 50% declined from just a decade ago around the world.
Wow.
And so, something's happening. The mobile devices and the hyperconnectivity is also a big factor. But I think even more bang for your buck probably is to dial in your diet and your exercise routine. And what we see in the exercise or the fitness realm are a big collection of dudes. And like you said, this is also relevant to females, and female wants to optimize estrogen, have a little testosterone of the correct amount, 20-1 less than the male, but still extremely important. So female hormones, as we know, is a huge category of health optimization. And so, boy, what we want here is an appropriate exercise routine. And so what we're seeing is either a sorry ass who's sitting on the couch and doesn't even do basic movement and has no commitment to fitness whatsoever, or pendulum swing all the way over to the devoted fitness freak who's in there at CrossFit doing 5 times a week, or hanging around at the gym every single day and pushing their body really hard. Or especially in the endurance scene, we have the high mileage folks that are locked into the ultra marathon schedule, and of course they were canceled in 2020, so they're going to do twice as many races in 2021 and do some triathlons too. And we have an over exercising population or an under exercise population. And what we want to do is kind of thread that needle to do an appropriate amount of exercise and also designed carefully. So we spent some time talking about the importance of low intensity, low level movement with heart rates in the aerobic zone. And then I think there's a huge deficiency also in this maximum explosive output as part of your fitness routine, where you're doing brief, explosive, super high quality, excellent technique efforts. You're not doing very many of them, but all of them are outstanding in explosiveness and power and technique. And so what we're talking about there is a very short duration workout, relatively speaking, to what most people are doing, but it's focused on that quality and that power. And when you put your body under maximum load, when you ask for maximum output, you, by the way, are getting a fantastic cardiovascular training effect. So I have this thing called a Carol bike where the workout is 8 minutes long, CAROL, and you do 2 20-second sprints with recovery in between. Warm up, sprint 20 seconds, recover, sprint 20 seconds again, cool down, workout over. And they have a ton of scientific research showing that this 8-minute workout has health, fitness, metabolic benefits that can be equated or are superior to doing a ride that's twice as long or 10 times as long. Now, if you have endurance goals and you love this stuff, and those 2 hours a day on the road are, what rock your world, that's great. Just do it at the proper heart rate. Don't do it in that medium difficult heart rate that can lead to hormonal difficulties and breakdown, burnout, illness, and injury. But the average person out there needs to go out there and hit it much harder for short duration stuff, and back off from these prolonged high intensity interval training sessions, HIIT, which is all the rage in fitness. But I'm seeing these workouts that last ridiculously too long. So it's not a high intensity session. It's a exhausting, depleting session. So if you go into your typical Peloton programming, or go to the spin class at the gym, or go to boot camp where they go for an hour and they ask you to repeatedly jump up and down or pull the cords, or go under heavy load and do it over and over again. CrossFit, I'm a super big fan of their overall philosophy of broad-based fitness and explosiveness and competency. But when you're at minute 43 in a workout and your heart rate is elevated from accumulated fatigue, and they're asking you to once again go under a bar and do a complex Olympic movement, that's a recipe for injury, because the central nervous system is fried. And so I feel like, at least in my opinion, every CrossFit workout I've done, if it ended at halfway mark, or if I got an important phone call, I'll bring my phone and go, "Oh guys, got to go. Got a big deal on the line." If the workout was half as long, but I gave it my all for that first 17 minutes of, hard effort, that would be a much bigger fitness boost. There's all kinds of science that backs up this notion that short and sweet and super explosive is the missing link for many people, especially with hormone boosting. And so we're talking about, going and doing a couple sets of deadlifts, set of 6, rest, another set of 6. Maybe you can throw in a couple sets of pull-ups. The whole thing takes 10 minutes, and you've just had an outstanding fitness adaptation workout with none of the downside risks that come from these overly exhausting, depleting sessions. I'm also a fan of this X3 bar. People can go look on Dr. John Jaquish's website. He walks his talk. He's a very fit individual.
Yeah, he is.
And his workout protocol is it's a 10-minute workout. And you do it, he wants you to do it 6 days a week, changing muscle groups. And I'm like, wow, 10 minutes, that's nothing. The only problem I have, the only critique I have, is that it is so difficult, and your muscles are so, so challenged by a single set of whatever the chest press or the squats, that you, in a few minutes, finally realize what it's like to be truly explosive, and that you don't need to continue to do more and more and more.
Exactly. I think the first time I ever did one of those, I went to go do, actually I think I went down on the ground to do some stretching, and I couldn't hold myself. I almost fell on my face. I mean, to talk about pure fatigue, in that short period of time, that's crazy. And that's what I feel most of us need, is something like, I have bands all over the house too, that I'll walk by one. I'm like, oh, these will be bicep curls. Oh, these will be, tricep kickbacks, things like that. And don't underestimate the bands. That's all I have to say. Bands are amazing.
Do something that's so difficult that you're exhausted in 30 seconds or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the key there. And the bands can definitely rock your world in that way. I have these things called stretch cords, and I'll do, a set of abdominal wood choppers, and by in a minute's time, it's all you need. It's like it's superior to putzing around for 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one other thing I would like to talk about with your MoFo mission too, you mentioned ancestral supplements. So one of the things that I love, and they're a big sponsor of mine for this race too, I love that. One of the things that I want to mention about the male optimization formula that you guys have come up with, it's like everything else that Ancestral Supplements has. There's no fillers in it. There's nothing. You don't have any rice in there. You don't have any of that stuff. So a lot of people that know me know that I'm not big on supplements, but I love Ancestral Supplements, everything that they have. And talk about getting, your nutrient density. You can't get any more dense with your nutrients than organs. It's above that steak line that we talk about. Remember, that was so fun making that chart with you, the nutrient dense foods. So I think,
Carnivore Scores, it was called.
yeah,
Go, you can
yeah.
download that at your website, I'm sure, and at
And
my
yours
website
too.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is important to note that these are very clean supplements. So I just want people to understand that there's no other fillers in here. So I know they have a distributor in the UK, and I know they have a distributor here in the US. So, people that are watching this are all over the world. So we have a very heavy base in the UK. So know that you can get these. There are some other countries that have a little bit of an issue getting these supplements in there. So anybody can ask me and let me know, and I can check into that for you. But Brad, I really appreciate you coming on. This hour has flown by so fast, as it always does with you. I could always talk for hours with you. Is there any leaving thoughts that you want to share with the athletes before we sign off? Or even just
Oh my gosh, we've covered so much. I love
I
your
know.
wrap up summary there. And, for me, I think taking these tiny little steps and doing something, in the direction of health or fitness or towards your goals, but not doing something that's going to be overwhelming, that's the secret to success. And if you get inspired by one thing we mentioned today, that's going to be a big help. Just go for it and put it into the category of habit, rather than trying to apply willpower or motivation or things that are super flimsy and we kind of get distracted by.
Ah, great words of wisdom. I appreciate you, Brad. Thank you for being here. Have a
Thanks,
great day.
Kate.
Thanks.
accident, yeah, I've had one. And not on my road bike, and I don't plan on having one. I got into an accident with my fat bike when I first got it. I want to say it was probably the second or third time I got on the bike, and I was on a trail that I shouldn't have been on. It was really technical, and I don't know to this day how it happened, but I did wake up at the bottom of a tree on the ground, and I had to pick up my bike and bring it out. And this trail was even hard to hike on. The handlebars were shifted so much I couldn't push the bike out. And I don't even know how I picked up the bike I don't even know how I got back to my truck. But I was able to find my way out of the woods, and I got there, and I ended up having a concussion. I had some nerve damage, which I still have a little bit of issues from. This was probably about 4 years ago, because I started mountain biking about 4 years ago. So yeah, it was quite the experience. The good thing is I got right back on the bike after I healed and continued riding. I guess that is the biggest thing that people say when you crash or you have a bad mishap on the bike, just get back up and keep going. So I was able to do that, and here I am. I'm still on it.
One of the reasons why I decided to join Peak Triathlon Coaching was because I started considering going back to training for a purpose, not just exercising in my basement or working out for fun, doing videos. And I was a competitive swimmer growing up, and there was a local triathlon race down the road that I drove by getting into my neighborhood. So I signed up. And just to see what it was like, I figured, it's an hour and a half race. I could at least muscle my way through that. And anybody could ride a bike and run for 3 miles. And I had the swimming part. So I did my first race, and it was so much fun. And I met a lot of just friendly people. It was competitive, but very local community feeling. And a lot of folks were from Peak wearing the orange and blue. So naturally, I asked them what that was all about, and made a few friends and a few connections, and learned that a lot of them were local and would exercise at the YMCA like I did. And so I started getting a little bit more serious about my training, and I wanted to have a little bit more purpose because it was fun. And after the first race, I got the bug and I wanted to do another one. And then I wanted to do a longer race. So, I did a couple of races on my own, and using some online platforms and things. And but I did meet Colin through the group, and was invited to do some swim workouts and some cycling workouts. And after meeting him and seeing the structure of the workouts that he could provide, and just learning a little bit about him, and that I didn't have to be an elite athlete like he is to be part of the team, I just decided to work with him. And it's been great. It's been so much fun. I've met so many people with lots of different backgrounds, but a lot of people are working parents like me. A lot of people had competitive, a history of competitive sports when they were in college. And, I was really inspired because honestly, I felt like if they can do it, I can do it. And I also wanted to be an inspiration to my kids, especially my little girls. So, I am so happy that I signed up to work out with Colin, because not just with him, I've met lots of great people. This year, it's all been on Zoom, and we've done a lot of virtual workouts together, especially cycling workouts, and it's been amazing. And I've met virtually a lot of men and women who have similar schedules and a lot of different goals, but a lot of folks are doing races even a lot bigger than mine, Ironman and half Ironman races, and some folks are doing anything in between. And I would say I've actually really enjoyed meeting a lot of other women as well. Some of them I've gotten to meet now in person, doing some track workouts now that COVID is kind of start slowly disappearing, and we're able to get in person and meet folks. And it's just been so great, because to have this other network of like-minded women and men that have careers, have lives, have families. We all have different backgrounds, but no matter how fast or how how serious we are about the sport, how much time we can commit to training, there's a really great sense of support and community with the Peak team. And I don't know, I really look forward to all of my workouts. Yes, Colin is an awesome coach, and I love the workouts he gives me, because I know I can talk to him at any time if I have any questions. If I don't understand something, and he helps set my goals. I have a race that I've set up that I wanted to do is my A race. So he structures my workouts for that. And he's even helped me with, my running technique, which is what I really need help with. I'm very grateful for that. And because I'm not a very good runner, but I've gotten better. And, I haven't gotten injured, knock on wood. So I think that's a really important piece too, because I'm in my 40s, and I definitely don't want to injure myself, because I don't know if I could get right back up again like I did when I was in college. So overall, it's been a great experience. And even when my races are done, I really hope that, the group of local folks that I've met, especially some of the ladies around the neighborhood, and, we swim and run together, and I don't know, cooking together. It's just been really fun. We've even met each other's children. It's been great.
The furthest I cycled in real life was 125 miles. It was just a couple months after I started road cycling, and I did the Vermont 100. So that's the whole route that covers Vermont from one tip to the next. So it starts in Canada, the Vermont border of Canada, all the way down to the Massachusetts border. So that was 225 miles. But I broke it up into 2 days. So the first day I did 125 miles, and then I finished it the next day. So that was in real life. On my trainer, I did it a couple weeks ago. I did just over 200 miles on my trainer. So that is the furthest I have cycled so far. how confident am I with doing repairs on the fly? Well, I can say that these are all the repairs that I have to do on my bike, so you'll have to stay tuned. So I have to put on a new front derailleur, a rear cassette, some new front crank sets, and then of course my new chain. I haven't done much repair on a road bike before, but I have done, my tires. I know how to do that. I know how to check the pressure, that kind of stuff. If I get a flat, I can easily repair that stuff. Now, to do any more technical things is gonna be a learning curve for me. So I'm excited to learn how to do all of this and learn how to, maintain my bike. This is something that I'm going to have to do on TABR, the Trans-American Bike Race. It's a self-supported ride. So if anything should happen, I have to do the repairs. So hence why I'm learning how to do this stuff. So I do have a friend that was a bike mechanic and is going to teach me how to do all of this stuff. So stay tuned for those videos. It's going to be a learning curve for me, and it'll probably be very entertaining for you guys. Coping with the pandemic has been quite easy, actually. I have RGT to thank for that. I decided back in, I want to say August, I was going to do the Trans-American Bike Race. And that's when I knew I had to get an indoor trainer. And so thankful that I was able to do that. In the midst of all the pandemic, everything's hard to get. Everything was hard to get. Anything that had to do with exercise was hard to get here in the United States. So I was very grateful and thankful that I was able to get a trainer. So to say that the pandemic was hard for me would be, I just can't say that. I almost feel guilty that I don't feel as affected from the pandemic as most people. I've been working from home now for 2.5 years, so that didn't disrupt my normal routine. The only thing that got disrupted was the cycling, going outside, and didn't have to do that this year because it's so much easier to just jump on my trainer. My desk is on one side of this room and my trainer's on the other. So this is where I spend my day. In between my clients, I jump on to my trainer. So having to say that, the pandemic was a bad thing, actually it wasn't for me. It really didn't feel any different. So I can't say that it's been a stressful time for me. I can say that it has brought me a lot of amazing friends. The RGT community has been amazing. I have to say that I never have been a social biker. The biking around here that I did at home was all by myself. It never was with a club. Other than when I went and did some mountain biking, I'd have a couple friends I would go with occasionally. But for the most part, I would do the road by myself. Not too many people wanted to do the distances that I was doing or the elevation that I was doing. So I was pretty much on my own for the road cycling. So RGT has been a heaven sent for me and something that I really, really took to over the winter months. And it has made me such a stronger cyclist as well. So I'm so thankful that I had RGT to help cope with the pandemic.
I did my first Ironman in 2015 and I had a rough day for sure. So in 2016, I started researching coaches and I found Peak Triathlon Coaching, and I spent some time talking to Colin. We kind of aligned on my goals, and I basically told him, I want to get to Kona. That was my thing. And that's kind of a big, kind of a mouthful to give to a coach right off the bat and said, I've completed an Ironman. I walked the last 7 miles of the Ironman, but I think if I'm coached, I can do a lot better. So I signed up with Colin, and it's an interesting one where you become a good soldier. So you basically just follow the protocol and do what he says and do the nutrition plan. I even have in front of me here, I have my little race plan that I use from Peak, and I read it like many times going into a race. And once I execute on that, that's really the biggest thing for me has been being able to follow a plan, stick to a plan, make a plan, stick to a plan, and follow that plan and execute well in a race, especially to run off the bike in a long course triathlon. So I have yet to have a bad race because of bad nutrition since I signed up on Colin, and we keep working together and we enjoy spending time together, racing together, training together. So it's been a great experience past 5 years now.
you can bet that I'm planning more races. As far as road races go, I would really love to be able to do the Trans-American Bike Race in real life next year. So that is my goal, is to do that eventually in real life. As far as races right after I do it on RGT, I will be doing the TNGA, which is 350 miles of single track over the Appalachian Mountains. That is a self-supported race as well, and it's all through navigation, so that will be interesting. So that is what I have so far this year.
So I'm here with Claire Simon, who's taking part, sorry, not taking part, but assisting with the TABR for Kate, and we're going to have a little chat. So Claire, nice to meet you.
And to you.
Can I ask, what was it that first got you into cycling?
Well, it was kind of accidental, really, because my husband got into cycling. He got a road bike, so I thought I'd better get one. And then we went out riding together, and it went from there. But certainly to start with, I was really nervous about riding alongside him, unless he was about 6 feet apart from me. But that was how it started. And then I got into time trialing. There's a club near to where we live, and I became quite good at it, and then went from there, really.
Oh, that sounds great. And how long have you been cycling?
That was in 2009. I was still working then, so every sort of 3 minutes I was jumping on a bike and training, and I've progressed since then.
Cool. And have you had any, what's your proudest moment or your biggest achievement?
Well, I used to race with my husband, and then he couldn't race anymore. So that kind of, I was kind of in his shadow a little bit, and that gave me confidence to ride with him. But then when he stopped riding, I thought, oh, well, I'm kind of on my own 2 feet now, and made my own way. And I started racing with British Masters Cycling. That I've been a member of for quite a long time. And I learned to race at Milton Keynes Bowl, going around the crit, getting dropped and then jumping back on, and that was how I learned to race. And that's been brilliant for me. So I've then gone on to win lots of women's races at the Bowl. I train hard and worked hard, and the confidence that gave me was massive, and really, as a woman, I kind of suffered from lack of confidence, and that really did it good. And then I did some road racing as well with BMCR, and I think there's a couple of proud moments. One was accidentally winning a road race where everyone else in my age group kind of fell by the wayside. It was a wet, windy, muddy, horrible day, and I just kept going, and I ended up with the faster group, and realized at the end that I'd won. So unexpectedly winning a road race was just amazing. And then another highlight was time trialing. I won the national time trial series for the veterans in 2014. That was one beautiful Rose Bowl, and I only found out on Twitter. Somebody said, "Oh, you've won." I thought, well, I couldn't possibly, but I'd done all the events, and it was just amazing to win that. So the unexpected wins, I think, are the best ones. They're the least stressful, as opposed to working hard and thinking, oh, if I don't win this, then it's the end of the world.
It does sound fantastic. To have won anything sounds great, but you sound like you've done quite a bit there. So how did you meet Kate?
Well, it was on RGT. I joined RGT on the 1st of January this year, and it became apparent that she was very active, particularly with running the ladies racing, the rides, and she was also active in racing. And so I found that really encouraging. She was a very encouraging person on the ladies' rides, did a couple of rides with her. And then she wanted to advertise her rides, so I linked up with the BMCR ladies group, so made that link. And then just kind of got to know her through that, really, and just find her very inspirational and encouraging. And again, I think it's different being a woman, because we often, not all women, but a lot of women lack confidence. And she gave me that confidence to get involved more in RGT and the racing, and actually the team, the time trial team. So that's, she's been really inspirational in helping me develop through RGT.
That's fantastic. And moving forward with the TABR event starting very soon, what is it that you're doing to help with the TABR, and what have you been doing to help?
Well, I run a few groups, communication groups in our village, and I run a few Facebook groups. And so I offered to help with her posting on Facebook and Instagram and the website and so on. So I'll be doing that every day for the TABR, starting on the 6th of June for 17 days. And the good thing about that is because we're 5 hours ahead in the UK, I can get a lot of stuff done before she starts riding. So it'll be in that cycle of posting, letting people know how her day went, letting people know what's happening the next day, lining up there's going to be a lot of speakers and the sponsors. So making sure all of the communications for that is slick and runs in the way that she wants it to run.
Yeah. And will you be posting up the ride links and the codes anywhere?
Yeah, they'll all be posted on Facebook. That's the TABR Facebook page specifically for that. And that can be accessed from Instagram and also from her website.
That sounds fantastic. Sounds like there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Sounds like you've been very instrumental in doing a lot of this, Claire.
Well, I haven't got to ride across America, but I can be part of it, which is my idea of fun, really. She's just an amazing, incredible, insane woman for taking this on, and I have no doubt she will achieve it in the way that she wants to do it. And it's just great to just be a small part of that and to take some of the admin work away from her so she can just concentrate on riding and recovering and achieving that fabulous goal.
That sounds fantastic. Well, we're all looking forward to watching her do it. And we've all got faith that she'll achieve it in the time that she wants to. So nice to meet you, Claire. And
thank you.
Catch up on Facebook. See you soon.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
My cycling adventures started about 4 years ago. It started with mountain biking. My husband had bought me a fat bike because I was constantly injured from running. My hamstring just wouldn't heal. I dealt with my hamstring for about 1.5 years. And he said maybe I should start biking. What I heard was you can't run anymore. I was stubborn and said I wouldn't like it and that he shouldn't buy it for me, but he did anyway, and I'm glad that he did. Absolutely loved it. My first ride on my fat bike, I had a grin from ear to ear, and it was just amazing. Ever since then, I've been on the bike. Absolutely love it. I can't say that I've ran, maybe a couple times since then, not very many. It's not my favorite anymore. And since I've been biking, other than crashing, I haven't had any injuries. So I love my fat bike. I upgraded last year to a Santa Cruz mountain bike, full suspension, loved it. And I decided, since I was getting faster and faster, I got to this point where I just couldn't get that much faster. So I decided I would pick up road cycling to help with that. It's definitely about finding that mental toughness that I have, finding that limit, knowing where that is. I haven't found that yet, as well as my physical limit. I'm so motivated to see where that limit is. Our bodies are fascinating and what it can do, and I'm all about trying to figure out what those limits are. I can't just pick one. And this sounds silly, but it wouldn't be anybody famous. It would be, you know, my RGT family. All of them are all over the world. And if I could ride with anybody in person, it would be them. They have helped me to grow, go past my limits, to make me stronger. They have made me believe in myself. They're helping me make this possible, this tour possible. So I can't pick a famous person, and I can't pick just one. I would pick my RGT family, and all of you know who you are. So thank you guys.
I currently ride a Cannondale Super X, so it's a hybrid bike gravel. It's a 2013. I bought it secondhand. There were 2 prior owners. I purchased it because I wasn't sure I was going to like road cycling. So obviously here I am. I've become addicted. So yeah, so looking to get an updated bike. There's no disc brakes on this bike. The shifting is SRAM and haven't been a fan of it. So definitely on the lookout for a new bike for sure.
Hey, are you looking for a great protein snack on the go that's not going to leave you that instant feeling of regret? Try Paleo Valley beef sticks. Paleo Valley beef sticks are farm-raised, made with 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Loaded with all the daily vitamins and nutrients your body needs to shine. Here at Paleo Valley, we prioritize health over profit, have a serious passion for environmental restoration, and animal welfare. Hey, buddy. Consider a higher quality protein snack you'll actually feel good about. Damn, that's good. Paleo Valley, because quality matters.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Virtual Cycling News, where I'm joined by our special guest, Kate Ouellette-Kretzinger, who's going to be undertaking a very special challenge coming up starting this weekend on the RGT Cycling platform. How are you doing, Kate?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Well, I think you have got a bit more of a challenge coming up in the next couple of weeks than I have, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about this great event that you're undertaking?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me here to talk about this. So I'm going to be doing the Trans-American Bike Race, which they call TABR for short. And it's basically across the United States. We start on the west side and work our way to the east. And due to the pandemic and everything going on and all the uncertainties, I'm actually doing it on RGT. So that'll be 4,200 miles, which is about, almost 7,000 kilometers. And it's about 183,000 feet, which is about 56,000 meters. So a lot of elevation as well as miles.
Certainly some big numbers.
Yes. We joke that.
Sunday?
Yes, that's this Sunday. So that'll be June 6th, correct. Mm-hmm.
And you're planning on doing this, is it 17 days? Is that right? That just sounds mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I think that my mind hasn't wrapped itself around that either. So I think if it did, I probably wouldn't do it. But yes, 17 days is what we're hoping for. The current woman record right now is 18 days and 10 minutes. So my goal is to do it in 17.
So this is obviously a huge challenge. I'm assuming you haven't just decided that this is going to be your first time on a trainer and you're going to give it a go. So how about a little bit of background? Have you always been a keen cyclist? Have you done much indoor cycling? How have you got started on RGT?
Yeah, so no, I have not always been into cycling. Just this past year, I picked up road cycling. Prior to that, I did do some mountain biking and all single track through the woods. That's my passion. I love doing that. I started off as a runner and I was always injured. So I ended up getting a bike, and I wasn't happy about getting the bike, but I got it and I absolutely loved it the first time I got on it. So I decided that I wanted to try road cycling just to see if I would like it, just because of the winter. It's really rough here. And so last year I bought a road cycle and loved it, and then decided to do this big adventure that I'm doing, starting on Sunday. And to do that, I needed to train through the winter as well. So I bought a trainer, and then I found RGT. The reason why I picked RGT was because we were able to upload the actual GPX files and ride the actual rides. And then my whole idea was to do that all winter long. When I found out that you had to do some cutting of the roads for the GPX files, I was like, well, I guess I won't be doing that. I'll just ride the roads that RGT has and all the magic roads that people put up. I'll just do that instead and get my mileage that way. So that's kind of how I found RGT.
And you're based up in New Hampshire, is that right?
Correct. Yes, up in the mountains.
Okay, so it does get quite cold there.
Yes, it does. We get a lot of snow.
Well, it sounds like with this great challenge, you're going to need some great support from your family as well. And what do they all make about this?
Well, they're very supportive in the fact that they would never tell me not to do something. They really think I'm crazy. They don't understand why I'm doing it, but they're very supportive in what I need emotionally, and obviously give me the space that I need to do the training for it as well. I've always taken things to the extreme. This is definitely extreme.
So we said it's going to be 17 days. I'm sure you've got a routine in mind for every day. How does that look like? Is it your family involved with that as well? Or was it all just sort of self-supported and on your own?
Yeah, it's all self-supported. The actual TABR ride is self-supported. So there's two routes that you can do across America. One is called RAM and the other is TABR. So RAM is the Race Across America, and that is where you can have support bands. You've got a whole crew that can support you. the the TABR is just yourself and self-supported. So that to me is very appealing. So I wanted to be able to do it that way. Well, since I'm going to be home, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I want it to be just self-supported. I don't want any help from anyone. And so there's a lot of prep this week to get ready for that. So cooking all my food, getting my, area set up so that everything is just so very quick and self-sufficient. So every minute's going to count. And so I have my room set up, where I can just easily reach things and not have to reach too far. I don't have to get off my bike too often. So yeah, and obviously the laundry's got to happen too. So I'm set up right next to the laundry room. So everything is just so close together. I've even this week practiced sleeping on the floor instead of in my bed so that I'm still in the same room. So that was quite a challenge there too. But yeah, I think, just keeping to the plan. My team that I have has been very supportive, and also checking, my pace and the distances, and making sure that I'm done on time, so there's no stress for me to finish the road on time, because we have a 4-hour limit. And so they've helped all that out. We worked in 15-minute breaks here and there, an hour break for lunch, just to kind of take a snooze if I need to, jump into some compression boots, do some, massaging of the shoulders if I need it, and then, continue riding. So it'll be about 16.5 hours a day is what I'll be doing on the bike.
Yes, so that's 240 miles a day. That's your target, isn't it? Over those 16.5 hours.
Yeah. And some days will be more, some days will be less. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the average.
Average it out over those 17 days. And so all your food prep's done, and really cutting down the amount of time you have to spend each day faffing around, as we would say here.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
And it sounds like you've had really good support from the community as well. RGT is known, of course, for having great community spirit, and I'm sure there's a huge range of people you'd like to thank and who have been involved. And I'm sure over the broadcast, etc., you'll be thanking them all. But is there a couple that you just want to sort of highlight today, or is it a bit mean to try and just pick out 2 or 3?
Well, it is kind of mean to pick out 2 or 3, but there's 2 that really stick out the most, and I really love my team. I'm part of a team called Team Lou. They have been such a huge support, and since I've joined RGT as well, they've had more confidence in me most of the time than I did in myself. They've made me a stronger, rider, a faster rider. They've pushed me past my limits. They've seen frustration. I mean, they're just amazing. They've seen my frustration, I should say. So they've been really good. So I have to say thank you to them. And then obviously my ladies' rides that I host on the weekends, those ladies show up every weekend. We push each other. We, just kind of, some of us just need relaxing rides, and they did that too. Sometimes I just needed the distance, and they were there to keep me company. So those are the 2 that I would have to say, and they're just, the whole community is amazing. So I just have to say thank you to the whole community. Yeah,
that's great stuff. And how can the community support you during this event?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways that people can. Obviously, riding with me would be very helpful. I would love to have that. Having somebody on the road will be amazing. There's no drafting, because we can't draft in real life, but just knowing someone's on the road that I can focus on to try and catch up with is really helpful to keep me on pace. So riding with me, you can find those rides in the RGT app. If you just search TABR, and that's TABR, you could do that way. Follow me on my Facebook page. My event page is K and the letter 8 does TABR on RGT. And the links will be posted every day. So that's another way. And then also we have a fundraiser going on. So if you can't ride with me and you don't have a Facebook page, which a lot of people don't these days, which is kind of surprising, you can actually support the foundation that we have, which is myositis, and for the UK. And that is just it's a rare disease that affects muscles. And so we're raising money for that as well, for awareness on that.
Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic cause, and we're going to put the links underneath the video to your Facebook page and to the fundraising page as well, so it's easy for people to find.
Thank you.
So finally, just good luck with everything, and maybe it's too early to say, but have you got any plans for after this? And how about riding the real thing? Is that in the works?
Oh, yes. So if my family still wants to be with me after this, I would love to do it in real life next year. But yes, definitely this in real life. I was kind of disappointed I wouldn't be able to see all the, the beautiful sights and just experience being outdoors. But I hope to do that next year. And then I have a lot of single track races that I want to do that are considered adventure rides instead of races, because they're pretty extreme, where you need a GPS to get through those rides. So I have a couple of those planned as well. So yeah, lots of more adventures to come, big ones for sure.
Oh, brilliant. Well, good luck with the ride. I'm going to try and make sure that I can join you on a few of the days. I'll have plenty of opportunity, as you will be out there for so long.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mike. It'd be great to see you out there.
And just a shout out to the community as well, just to get involved and yeah, click those links below, follow the live streams, get out and ride as well, and give Kate all the support that you can manage.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Kate, and yeah, good luck, and we'll see you out on the road.
Great, thank you.
A masterpiece? Why, yes, it is a masterpiece.
I have many dream bikes. If I were to pick just a few, I love the Specialized Tarmac. That's one I would love. Scott Addict RC is another. And then maybe the Trek Endomonda would be the other one. Edmonda, excuse me. Those three would be my top picks. But I think anything above my 2013 Cannondale that I have would be a huge step up, and I would be happy with. So those three would be my first pick, but honestly, I'm not that picky.